Who are you and what did you do?
So my name is Vecht. I'm actually from the Netherlands, and I got second place at the Groningen Regional in the northern of Holland.
Nice.
So
Congratulations. Yeah.
yeah, thanks.
Um, and then obviously we're not going over the deck today, but then you did also top the UK Open as well, so congrats on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I 341 participants, I believe.
yeah.
So pretty big one at that.
Yes. Congratulations. So why did you choose Yummy for the regional?
So at the very first, of course, it's like a new format. It's just as hunters. It was, I believe, like a week old at that point.
Yeah.
And you also like you essentially have three like picks from the new set. You had like Yumi, Dracotail, and Funky Canine. I felt that Funky Canine is like quite a bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
Well, its ability to play through handships is like enormous. It can also like just to bet and like quit.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, yeah. And Dracotail, it felt like it's like too fair in my opinion. Like you have like again, you can make it unfair, but then you also have to bet sometimes because you then have like, oh, I have my shuttle beast in hand, but my Rahu Dracotail got stopped, and you're like, oh yeah, I will guess I will go X2 drop. No, but like Yumi felt the most consistent for me, and also the other point is like most people were on hand traps at the time, and Yumi's ability to play around hand traps is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, especially going much further into the format, and maybe after potential ban list, people will play more breakers, so Yumi will fall off. But I think it was for this regional like the better pick to play.
Yeah, that's fair. You picked a very interesting version. I've seen a little bit of the Peri map, but I don't think. Well, I've seen a lot of it in OCG, I believe, but I'm not seeing too much of it in TCG in recent times. So how come you played the Peri map and then like the glaring kind of one is how did it feel into Vanquish? Because obviously they've got the pops. So did that fare well? Were you happy with your choice in that?
So personally, I was happy with it because it's like just like I said, many people were on hand traps at that time, especially like on Dracotail and stuff, and also the Yumi Mirror where people play a lot of hand traps and well, like PRI map plays into Ash and Perch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, like I felt if I had like Cup C, I just felt like an enormous step in the right direction. Like of course, Cookie and Lollipo don't play into like Ash Blossom at first, but essentially it does because if you get Ash on the Cup C the Synchro 2, your end board becomes far more vulnerable or like less explosive and everything like that, so they can actually break your board with engine. Um, and also, just like you said, people play like Holy Sue, try to pop, and one Cupsy actually plays around like essentially two pops because you can first like get it popped with Rasen, and then you can get it popped with Caesar, and you still have like engine to go to, right? Because you essentially went one trade into like one of their Holy Sues.
Okay.
Um, so I felt the ability to see more Cupsy was like it was really nice to have. That's the main reason why I play Peer Ice Map. Of course, it also has quite some downsides. Like if you add your normal summon and the normal summon gets judgmented, you can never actually like activate a single name again. You can only add the one singular Cupsy. Like other monsters don't have zero attack. But I didn't felt like uncomfortable with that because even if you have like already a Cupsy in hand and I have a second one because of PRI's map, I can just like normal the first one and special summon the second one and do still the entire combo.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like restricted with that.
Did you find that you missed the cookie or the lollipop at all? Like the third ones of each?
So the thing is, yes, you are lower on names, and especially when you try to activate obedience school multiple times, it becomes awkward. Like you go obedience school, your fields get popped. You want to activate the second one. Yes, it becomes awkward at those times, and especially in names. But I found that like the amount of hand traps that I need to play into was far more than I ever needed to resolve an actual second obedience school.
Yeah.
Uh, because most of the time people let you like leave with like one name at least on the field, just so you can never actually activate obedience Sculpt. So if people don't know you're on OP Rise Map or actually think you're playing the full names, then you don't get punished for it essentially, right? Just by
Yeah.
the illusion that you actually play it.
That's a very fair point. And then yeah, you said obviously you chose the board breaker approach rather than hand traps. Um, yeah, how come you took this? Like, did you think breakers would be a lot better than hand traps, even with the Malice and Mitsu format. Like they're still lurking around. Did you still like? Were you happy with your choice in that?
Yeah, I was really happy with it because, like, first of all, Droplet is just an insane cartridge
Oh
format. It
yes,
helps against every type of deck. Like against Dracotail, you can like dodge your impactful spells or like monsters from getting bounced or like negated, and they cannot draw from that. You can stop Winda, which is like a very big point at that
yeah,
region, in my opinion. Like all the Dracotail players at that specific regional were on Winda at the time. Lots of like people on DB also just like randomly Winda you. Um, it also made Horde Drones a bit scary in my opinion, so that's also the reason why I played only like 2 engages and 1 Horde Drones. I think the most optimal line is to play 3 engages, but I was a bit more scared about Winda, so I just want to have like less like play less actually into it and have more options behind like around it. Um, but yeah, I played like a little bit of a mix because if you actually look at my list, I actually played like 12 hand traps. Only
yes,
it's like
true.
very weird ones because many people when they associate like the 9 trap version, they don't associate it with Ash.
Yes,
Like they
yeah,
and the reason why I mainly did that is I felt like well people were mainly on hand traps. I still want to have the ability that even if people side in hands, I like breakers. I still have some defense in my hand. Like if people activate trust, I can just ash it. If opponent activates obedience, I can ash it. Like there's so many like little things that helps you with the protection of ash in your hand, or that you can just like try to play it a little bit safer, right? Like bait stuff out and like be safe that you have an ash for like an opponent's like breaker, because most breakers like scoop to an ash like trust, Book of Eclipse, also songs which like can also be a breaker in this deck. If people like opted to go like for the tag out effect.
yeah.
So I really liked Ash, and of course it conflicts with Songs of Dominators, but I just accepted it as a weakness from the deck, and I felt like if the rest of the list is good enough, then I accept that weakness as is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then yeah, so did you ever find so like obviously you've talked about there's engages which adds you've obviously got cupsy which adds depending on the situation you've also got thrust that adds so and obviously the Piri map. Did you find that Droll ever was a problem for you? I don't know whether the regional was still stuck on. A lot of people were still thinking about Mitsurugi and Raizu and playing Droll or not. Did you ever find that that came back to bite you a wee bit?
No, not really. Like I believe, trolled once or twice, but it didn't really matter for me. Because when you go first, yes, you will think, oh, you add a lot, so you get cooked by, for example, trust. But if you already have a name, like let's, for example, you have engage plus name, then you're fine. Like you set up a board, but it's still a board. If you have Gupsy plus name, it don't matter. But like just sets one of your 9 traps, right? And like when you go
Yeah,
first, so it's not that bad. But like just the ability to punish an opponent only so immediately, or what's also again like talking about Winda, uh, just adding Darkwood no more. That's mainly why it's in the main deck. Like just the one singular copy. Is just to punish that one. Like you can of course add a lot more cards like that punishes Winda. Um, but I just felt like Dark Willow was like made the most sense because also good as a breaker itself against like other decks as well.
okay, that's interesting. That is something I put down because talents and Dark Rule and more in the main haven't been as popular. And obviously you're main in the pair of them. So I was kind of interested in that, like, you've kind of explained Dark Rule and more there, but I was kind of thinking, like, why not, like, so you've got Lightning Storm down on the side. How come not maybe, like, main in one of those? Because, like, say, you got Vanquish Soul, and one of the biggest issues with them would be, like, the trap. So, say, like, getting rid of that trap's pretty big. Did you just think that, like, using your philosophy of like hand trapping to stop the mad love was that like the main thought there rather than main decking a lightning storm over the others?
So the reason for specifically that is like yes, of course they get the trap, but I also found that if they got a trap, which means 2 Vanquish on name, if they get so far, they're probably already winning. Like if they have 2 Vanquish on the on field, they either have like a Batloff, which they need to have in order to add the trap, or if they hard draw it, then like yeah, go suck, I guess. But like if they already have Matloff on the field, they already have an inherent bounce most of the time. Um, but yeah, the deck is also fairly inconsistent. So I felt like if you just have 9 traps, don't play into Holy Seal, you're probably fine to just break the entire deck uh, purely on breakers. Because many Vanquish Soul decks just played straight into Dark Ruler, or just
Yeah.
played straight into like Droplet. And well, I would also understand Harpies a bit in the main deck. Um, I'm not that scared about back row in game one. Like, when people cite in judgments and floodgates, I'm scared. Like, those are the cards I'm losing to. But there's no main deck cards except for the Vanquish Soul Trap, sort of, which can, like, again, if they have it, then they already win. Like, even if I have Harpies on it most of the time. Um, but it doesn't help me in game one that much. Like, Yumi can already play pretty good around back row because of the inherent tag effects and like being able to synchro summon on your opponent's turn and your own turn. That you can dodge like cards like Imperm or other back row that is played in the format, like the Horns or like the Flame from Dracatail.
Yeah.
So I found the ability to already being good enough to play into back row. Um, so much so that I didn't need the Harpies in the main for that.
And did you find that your theory paid off a lot? Say, was there a lot of times where you'd have the thrust to get into the Dark Rune and more, or the droplets to out the windows, or the problematic cards? Did you find that that paid off?
So the thing is like yes, I never in the tournament went into trust into Dark Ruler, but that's also because of how I think I sequence some kind of things. So like if I already had Cupsy, for example, right? Yeah, like one Cupsy and a name, also play Someone's Window because you can just like do crazy stuff where you just like try to Book of Moon the window before you do anything else, right? Because if they like, let's say for example you have Cupsy and they immediately drop window on you, you can still do like other things as well. Then you of course can go for Trust for Dark Ruler, but people like sort of like don't read the room that well, so they never did really that. So I could like just Book of Mundo Winda and stuff like that. They were also always chained a little bit too late, but what I had some occasions where I just had like placed cards to play with, and I just went like Trust into Talents and then like got rid of the window by Book of Mooning it, for example.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then kind of moving on to some of like the extra deck stuff here. I noticed one was Double Herald. I know a lot of people like it feels a mixture of people doing one or two. Did you make Double Herald often? Did you find that this came up quite a
Yes.
lot?
Yeah, I made it pretty often because I find that like while the endboard of Yumi is pretty good, it's not unbreakable, and especially when your opponent like introduces like board breakers like Darkwood no more than Harpies, is the scenarios where the second hero can come up. Because what I like the usual end board, which is like pretty generic, is like you have the one herald on the one side, you have like a Lollipop sitting in the middle, and then you have a Link one plus a Little Beast, right? And there's a price set. That's generic end board. And what I often did is I went from the lollipop that's sitting on the field. I turned that into like a Link one and a Little Beast. And then I again made lollipop on my opponent's turn, generated 2 additional butters on the field, and then synchroning it up for the second herald. And
Yeah,
the reason why I did that is like, let's say for example you play against Dracotail, you always have a herald live on the field.
yeah,
That's the main thing. So like even if you're getting caught behind something, you still herald. But it's also important because if people did like something like call by, for example, on the first herald, you still have the second herald to protect your herald.
yeah.
And like that, those little interactions that happen. Um, I felt it was necessary for like especially like this format, but I also think it's like upcoming. You still really need the second herald.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then yeah, how come you played Amirage in a over Anima in like the non hand trappy build? As you haven't got like as many of those kind of things that hit the requirements for Amirage. How come you played that instead?
So the thing is like I still play Ash, of course, and especially when you already purge and your Ash is dead. That is when all my words comes up. But also I play Foolish in the side, so it can theoretically come up where you go if you go second. You have 6 hand traps you can normal summon into like a special summon lame, of course. So it comes up that you need all my words for that. And Anima didn't really come up for me. Like it's cool, it's cute, but I see there's no reason for it. And also like Omni Rush has a little effect that it can like protect the guy from being destroyed. So if an opponent just tries to destroy like one of your names because of Asen, you can actually protect it and then go into the link one, for example.
Yeah, that's very smart, to be fair. And then there's like a lack of Typhon as well. And now we saw that, like, I think in the recent YCS, it was a crazy amount of Typhon. I believe it was in most of the action decks. Would you ever play Typhon in the future, or did you find it just never came up? Was there ever situations where you wanted it, or?
I wouldn't really say for the Baker build, because the thing is with the Baker build, you let your opponent most of the time go like combo or half combo. So when Typhon comes up, it's like, oh, but they already generate follow up anyway. Like if you play the Baker build, you need to deal with your opponent's board and then set up your opponent board. Or like set up your own board as well to stop again their half type of follow up.
Yeah.
So the thing is like, yes, Typhon would come up very sometimes, but your opponent always has guaranteed follow up to play with. So one Typhon is not going to seal the deal for you. Like if you play hand traps and like a amount of them, you can literally say to your opponent, "You're not playing," and my Typhon will carry it on its own because they don't have inherent follow up because you hand trap them.
Yeah.
But in this deck, you cannot really do that. So in that scenario, it doesn't really help you that much, and that's why I didn't play it at least. Like it can still be played, but I wouldn't really go for it. In my opinion.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, did you find Link Spider came up much? Like, did you feel it was necessary for Nib?
So the weird thing is like yes, it did come up sometimes, but the deck, if you play it well, you can already play pretty good around Nip, because the hidden tech is of course the Hornet Jones. As long as you have Hornet Jones, you're Nip proof to your entire combo. And the theory for that is like Hornet Jones has a little effect on it that says it cannot be tributed. So even if you get Nip, you start like you just have two silly tokens on your field, and one of them is a light. So like you can use the one Hornet Jones and a name you like reserved in your hand to actually go for plays. And with the other token, which is the Nip token, you can actually make the link to that resets twice. So you can actually do plays with that again. So if you're a good pilot, I think the ability to play around Nip is already well enough that you actually don't really need the Link Spider, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I know some people do have the Link Spider, some people don't. So it's like, I guess it's that wee bit of reassurance, I suppose. Yeah, that's a fair point. And I actually did not realize that about Hornet Drones.
Lots of people don't know that. Like
Yeah,
I played a shit ton of DB with this deck, and I don't know, like this came up like more than 20 games.
yeah, makes a lot of sense now, especially when you see people sequencing it so that they like special summon a random token off Hornet Drones, and you're kind of like, why is that there? That makes a lot more sense why that Hornet Drones is now sitting there. Um, yeah, and then so did you find as well some of the more interesting cards? This card is absolutely brilliant. Did you ever find that the burn or the pop ever came up for this, like especially with like in time with a win con or anything like that?
So the pop randomly comes up for like cards that cannot be targeted, for example. Just like I said, it's like when you activate a surprise, you can like reset it when you use your nip token, for example. There's like lots of hidden things that this card does, but in general, it's like it does a little bit of everything, and that's good enough for it. It's super versatile. I wouldn't play a second one. I would never cut it. It's like it's really nice to have.
Yeah,
But
such a
yeah.
utility card, isn't it?
But you can also reset droplet with it, which is also really important in this deck. Because you can just like reset every like quick play spell in the game, of course.
Yeah, which is in itself is just crazy, crazy, crazy good. And did you find yourself burning people much, or did you find that you didn't really go to time?
So I went to time once. Once. And it was like a very weird match. We essentially had a pretty long judge call. And that was just about the ruling thingy. We figured it out at some point because I couldn't read Red Ransom. I didn't like so the question in particular was like if I have minion on field, how does the attack like what are the attack stats of my monsters? But Red Ransom says original attack, which like two judges and myself couldn't figure out at them. Like at that point. So we were just like in the judge call. And we were actually also in a very heavy like grind game. So yeah, so like I went into time once, my opponent was like left on 200 life points, and I would have sealed the game. Like we sort of played it out, but it doesn't really come up that much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then kind of looking at some of the side deck as well. How come you chose Anti-Spell as your floodgate of choice? How come not Gozen or Rivalry? What was your thought process in this one?
So I am very like weird on those type of um like floodgates type of things because I don't really need it in my opinion. Like the weakness of this deck is the breakout poaching, right? Like if people use Dark Ruler in combination with other stuff. And that's why I mainly play the three solemns, and I see like the anti spell as the fourth solemn. That's essentially like warning is in essentially there because I felt like the end board can sometimes be broken, and I just want like a little bit of reinforcement to cover that. Like I would usually side out like imperms out for that because both side going first imperms are too fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's why I went for like the solemn approach, of course.
That's fair.
Um, but yeah, it just isolates you a little bit more against board breakers. So that's why I played the one anti spell.
Did you find you ever wanted strike or anything like that?
No, no, no. I was perfectly comfortable with warning because also like you play against Dracotail, you want warning. Strike doesn't really do much in that sense. If you play against the mirror, it's also really good with warning because you can warning obedience school, for example.
Yeah.
There's like lots of little things that helps you that warning can do that doesn't strike doesn't.
Yeah, that's fair. And then what were your matchups like on the day?
Ooh, good question. I played against multiple Malice.
Ooh,
And Malice
interesting.
is the worst matchup for this deck by far. Like I was in the understanding that like lots of people were like would be just like on the new decks, and which they were. But I just got really unlucky pairings. Like I played against like the small amount of Malice that were on like in the entire room. Uh, but I beat 2 out of 3 still with this deck. Because the thing is like they have Link Rebo, so they essentially have a cross out for one of your hand traps in engine.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but then again, people need to know you're on the songs build, so you can sort of like do a little bit like a bait with that, essentially, right?
yeah. That makes sense.
And especially when you already have like when they have seen you play Ash in the main deck, then they're like, oh, maybe he still plays like hand trap, so they link off like the link Weibo. But yeah, if you showed Ash, then you cannot like do songs, of course.
Yeah.
So that's like the counterpoint.
And then, because how many rounds was it? The regional.
Uh, it was I want to say 7.
Pretty solid. And what was your overall record?
X1. I only lost in the finals.
And
So
that was Malice.
yeah, that was Malice. Yeah.
That's fair play to you. And then what were your dice rolls like on the day?
I think pretty even. Like just I voted all down in like a Twitter thread. So I have to look up like back at it, but I think it was pretty even at some point. I think it's like maybe 4-3 or 3-4 or something.
Okay, so you had a pretty even spread. That's not too bad then. Um,
Yeah, nothing I can at least remember of like having insane amount of luck on that one.
yeah. And then did you find there was a MVP of the day? Any best card?
Um, Not really. I really like the coexistence of the deck. Everything works with each other. It's like, in my opinion, well built in the sense of like every card covers each other in terms of weakness, and also what it wants to achieve. Like your main goal of the deck is pretty solid, and it covers like, in my opinion, when you have Justice in this format and you focus on 3 decks, that's where this deck shines on. Like the Dracotail, the Yumi, and the Vanquish Canine. The rest you just ignore. They're not existent because people want to play new decks. That's essentially the idea behind it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then yeah, any closing remarks? Anything you want to talk about?
So I think I already talked a bunch about like the main deck specifically, and also the side like the extra deck. The only one thing I want to say is like because your Malice matchup is so poor, that's why I still played Lancia, even though you could attempt to cut it now. Because like or like back then, because people would like play less Malice. because of the new decks in them, of course. And for Warlords I played because it helps you against like just rogue decks, because that's the scary part with like breakers, of course.
Yeah.
Like if some people like play like rogue decks, then you can get overwhelmed, and I just want to play for Warlords to like keep that in check essentially.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And then anything else?
No, I think that's really it. Like I think I covered every single point I've at least thought of right now.
Yeah,
So
I think you've gone in a lot of detail. So, in which case, any shout outs you want to do?
So I of course want to shout out like just my friends in general. Like Thomas Goss is like a really like big part of my testing in general. So specifically shout out to him. And just like there's too much to name, so not going to bother with that. Like people know who I include or not, and if you don't know, feel free to be included.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, congrats once again, and thank you very much for coming on.